How's it going, everybody? Wanted to do a quick follow-up video. Hopefully the audio will be a little bit better on this one. And as a follow-up to the video I posted yesterday and my EMA SMA strategy. Just wanted to do a couple examples that I saw today and reiterate when you should be entering and not based on this strategy. So this particular ticker is going to be Zoom. Again, we're looking on the 5-day only, and we're focusing around the 50, 100, and 200 moving averages, not entering on big candles. So you can see basically at open, we had a big candle that broke down below. I would not have entered there because, again, we want consolidation around these moving averages before we enter the play. Now, granted, today was Friday, and like I said in the video yesterday, depending on the price action and whatever, you may want to, because these particular plays generally require some patience. 20, 30 minutes is not uncommon. I would have recommended probably playing next week's expiration on this particular one. So anyway, you can see it breaks down below all three of those moving averages, gets pulled back up, but it breaks through again on a big candle. Then we get a little bit more consolidation down here, but as you can see, the 200 has now pulled away from the 50 and the 100 a bit, which is why I wouldn't necessarily have entered on any of these little candles down here that were, kind of during the lull of the middle of the day. Then you can see it punches through, but again on a big candle, almost immediately fails, comes back down, basically to the bottom of the 21 EMA, consolidates even more, which allows the 200 to pull up a little, just enough that the 50 and the 100 came down and the 200 came up just enough where they're close enough where I feel comfortable with this now. This candle right here, the one with the little green, purple down arrow, that's basically an indicator that I use on TOS that says, okay, it broke below the 200 moving average. And I have them synced up with the colors of my SMAs. So you can see it broke down below on a small candle. And the following candle retested that 200 MA and then just barely broke the wick, which was a really little wick of the original 200 MA breaking candle. So I would have entered right at the end of this candle, and hell, even if you get in a smidge late with this strategy, doesn't really matter all that much. Then you can see it starts to break down, and it actually holds the breakdown. And you start to see it's not the fastest moving trade, but we get a break at about 359.60 is around where I would have entered. And you ride it. You ride the Ripster EMA cloud down. We broke through here. Again, I'd said depending on your risk tolerance, you can take profits whenever you'd like. I generally wait until I can see the price action starting to cause the Ripster EMA cloud to flatten out and or break through the 8 EMA into the 21 EMA. And you could have basically just ridden this down all day, almost into close. You can see it started to shoot back up and it broke through right before close. Even if you waited all the way until just before the bell, that's 355. It's about a 3-point move. If you're doing weekly options, it's a pretty solid play for the day. If you happen to play 0-day expirations on this, it probably moved fast enough to get from the 359.60 down to this price level I have around 355.70. You could have played that, and that would have been a really solid move for a Friday with 0-day expirations. Okay, the next one, which is a slightly different example. It's more of an example of why I generally don't use this strategy at open, even though it sometimes works at open. This is a good example of when it doesn't, and it's why it's important to wait for the consolidation around the moving averages. But again, it's also, you can use this to scalp if you want, or you can use it for more long-term stuff. So this would have been an example of why it's important, even with the strategy, why it's important to take profits when you have the opportunity. This isn't a strategy for multi-day long holds, etc. So you can see all three of the moving averages at open were close, but not as close as I would like. So again, we broke up above all of them in the morning, only to get slammed back down, and we ran all the way down to 189.52 at one point, where it reversed, came back up, and you can see that dip allowed the 50 and 100 to pull down and sit on top of the 200, and then we had some consolidation here, up, down, up, down, up, down, and then this this candle right here, I guess technically this candle was the breaking down, and then the following candle, when it breaks below this wick, which is going to be right about there at around 191.65, you could have entered puts. Now, in that particular instance, you would have gone red on this trade briefly while it comes up and retests this 100 and 200 MA before essentially immediately failing in the following candle. So this particular trade, you really would have only had to have held for about 5 minutes in the red before it went green, and then you could have ridden it all the way down to here, and you can see the Ripster cloud is a little bit funky because of the price action of the day, which is why in that particular instance, I usually would use probably more of the 8 EMA rather than the 21 for my stops. So I probably would have exited this trade somewhere around here. Maybe if I stuck in it through these couple of green candles, this red candle breaks down, and then almost immediately it's starting to push back up into here, I'd probably get out around there. But again, it's your own risk tolerance. If you wanted to wait until it breaks the 21, you can do that and get out basically somewhere in one of these two candles. For a day trade or on weeklies, on a non-Friday, you still make pretty good profits if you get out here. But like I always like to tell people, you gotta make sure you take profits along the way if you have more than one contract. Smaller accounts may not be able to afford more than one, but it's important. Last example for today is C. This is an example of basically when it does break on larger candles, it can sometimes still work. But again, we need to see that consolidation and or multiple attempts to break through the MAs with the subsequent failure. Now, this can work on either end. It can work for calls or puts, depending on which way it's attempting to break. So obviously with City here, at open, we broke up. We got all the way up to 74.62 before immediately falling back down. The following 3 5-minute candles basically were all retesting the bottom of those MAs. So when I play it like this, again, I'll play the break of the bottom wick of all of these candles. And I will tend to be more of a scalper as opposed to an all-day holder because the candles are still a little bit bigger than I normally would like. So I would have probably entered right around 73.80, and you could have ridden it down to basically over here, which is about 73.15. Not a huge price jump, but solid for a day trade on weeklies. And those are just a couple more examples. Hopefully you can hear me more clearly and you understand it a little bit better. of what I'm looking for when using this strategy. Have a good weekend, everybody. See you soon.